Hey, are you looking to level up your events? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Encaptivating Virtual Events. Woohoo! Woohoo!
Woo! This talk show features conversations that will teach you, yes, I'm talking to you, how to create encaptivating virtual and hybrid events that lead to, yes, connections. I'm Shannon Daniels, founder and CEO of Encaptiv, coming to you with my co-host,
Definitely Zaflan, and I am your virtual events navigator and producer here at Encaptivating Virtual Events. In case you're wondering what the show is all about, well, I guess you have to tune in, right, Shannon? Because, hey, hello, if you want to learn a little bit more about the series, well, we're going to talk about who we will be featuring at our shows. Well, you just have to tune in. When, Shannon?
You got to tune in every Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. That's New York time for those of you who are doing the math. We will be live broadcasting every Thursday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. But what happens if you're unable to make it? If you get caught up? Well, if you are able to make it, you're just going to hop through this door right here and join right in. But if you miss the live broadcast, you can still go through this door. And then what happens if they miss the live broadcast, Zeph?
Well, if they miss the live broadcast, folks, wherever you're tuning in, even though if you're tuning on social media, you won't find them, the replays, on social media, but you'll find them here. Boom! Right there, right on your screen, it says bit.ly Encaptivating Virtual Events, and that's where you will be watching all those replays. Well, everybody, we're excited. We're looking forward to see you on our live broadcast. And again, in case you miss it, because you have to do a lot of things in life, this is where you catch the replays, and it is bit.ly Encaptivating Virtual Events. Until then, are you excited? Are you excited? Are you excited? Are you excited?
Boom!
Boom! All right, folks, we'll see you. We'll see you on the other side of that door. Until then, bye, 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 everybody. See ya. always doing this right in the morning. Just caution to all of you who are tuning in right now. I've not had my caffeine yet this morning. I brought my natural can of caffeine in my body this morning. So are you all ready to rock and roll, rock and roll, rock and roll? All right, everybody, welcome to today's episode 4 already of Encaptivating Virtual Events. Boom! If you're here, say hello so I can say hello to you right back. And I know Anna's already here already, and I'm going to put that up. Hi, Anna. Good morning. I can't even speak because I feel like I need to go slower this morning because you know how my adrenaline pumps up and I'm really just so excited to have people and share and have a conversation. Anyways, so folks, good morning, Anna. Thank you so much. She says nice, looks fabulous. Replays, yes, replays at bit.ly and captivating virtual events. But I just want to say, if you are just tuning in into the show today, this is episode 4 of Encaptivating Virtual Events. And yes, we have 2 guests with us today, us as in me, because Shannon isn't here today. But the topic we're talking or discussing or having a conversation about is all about speak with confidence, how to do better when speaking at virtual or hybrid events. And I'm really excited to bring them on. But before we do that, I just want to share a little bit of information about where you will get all the replays for the show. You will not be able to watch the complete replay on LinkedIn Live, because that's where we're streaming out right now too. But the place that you will be able to catch all the replays is here. So that's the website that you need to be going to, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. All right, everybody, so this is what it looks like when you actually go to the space called Encaptivating Virtual Events. What that happens is that you'll log in, you will see, wow, we have a beautiful space where we welcome you and say hello, welcome, watch all of that. But the most important thing is you need to go to the agenda. When you look into the agenda, you can see all the episodes that are that we have done and is doing right now. If you see the color pink here, it basically is telling you it's live. So if you happen to be at the website where we have all our shows featured, you can just go in there, and if you're in the lobby right now, you can click join, and when you click join, you will be able to have a conversation with us. As you can see, I'm just going to mute this and let you see. Isn't that awesome? This is what we call technology is all about, right? All right, less of that, more of what we're going to talk about today. So I'm really excited to feature and bring 2 of our guests on today, because I know you guys can get a little bit bored with me sometimes. Just, are you really? Anyways, I'm going to bring them on because we have a lot to cover today, because I feel that in the world of virtual hybrid events right now, you can be good at speaking in person, but that doesn't really translate well maybe in the virtual world, because you're probably learning a lot of new muscles in speaking with confidence. So let me bring them on right now. Are you ready? Here we go. My friend from Connecticut, Ihssane. Welcome, Ihssane. Hi.
Hi.
He's got the memo. We're in blue today. Hello.
Yep.
And all the way from South Carolina is Heather Hansen O'Neill.
Woo! I didn't get the memo about the blue. Where's the memo?
I know. Well, you actually have some of our other colors, as you can see.
Okay.
So you'll balance this out today.
Okay.
It never crossed the straight line.
I know. Welcome, everybody. Let's just take a little minute here to kind of go around the room, introduce yourself, because I know some of our viewers are pretty new to you and maybe they like to get to know you a little bit more. So I'm going to let you, Ihssane, to get us started. 30 seconds intro of who you are.
Good morning, everyone. Zeph, thank you so much for the invite. It is such an honor and privilege to be here on your podcast. And Heather, it was very nice meeting you. Very nice chatting earlier. My name is Ihssane Khatib. I live in Connecticut. My office is actually in Guilford, where I am today. My profession is financial advisor, but I also a Toastmaster graduate, local Toastmaster at Yale University, and married, and I have an 11-year-old boy. I think
Boom.
Yeah.
Boom. We'll
Yeah,
hear more
the
from
11-year-old
Ihssane.
boy is a boom for sure.
Heather.
Hello, hello, everyone. I am Heather Hansen O'Neill. I have a company called From Fear to Fire. And not to be left out in the whole Connecticut thing, 6 months ago, I could have said that I am from Connecticut too,
Mm.
but the beach was calling my name. So now I'm
Yeah.
in South Carolina. I'm a speaker, I'm an author, and I love to serve. So ask me anything. Bring it on, baby.
Bring it on. And that's how I love to hear it. Bring it on. And we are already bringing it on because I think Anna put it up here. Zaf is Zaf is self-propelled. Definitely love your energy. Thank you so much. Yeah, sometimes I wake up, I don't even know which continent I'm waking up in, right? Because the time zones always change. But anyways, let's get started here, folks. We are talking about speak with confidence. And I want to ask you, because with the world, especially 18 months ago or a little bit more now, right? People have had to learn how to be virtual or actually show up virtually. And sometimes speaking with confidence can be a challenge, showing up in the virtual world because there's a lot to do behind the stage, especially if you're a presenter. You're figuring out like what are my points, but I'm also thinking about what my slide would look like. Am I gonna engage in the sideline? But I think a big part of this conversation is, let me ask you this, Heather. Um, let's start with some laughs, everybody, right? What are some of the biggest fails, if you can even say it's a fail, right? You've had or seen at meetings and events. So, one of the things Shannon and I always share is that there's a difference between meetings and there's a difference between virtual events because there's just the delivery, the presentation, the conversation. But what have you seen? Like, probably, biggest fails or something that people do at meetings or events that you go like,
Oh my goodness. I, I
this
could
is such a fun.
I could go on about this one because there's so many.
Yeah.
So I'll give you one quick one for me personally because I do, I'm vulnerable, whatever, I get it. I mess up all the time. So I was live at an event and I didn't prepare. I had my slides, but I didn't go through them because I knew what was supposed to happen. I just handed them over to the tech person at a big corporate event. So I thought everything would be fine. And they were working with a different PowerPoint, and the slides showed up in all different order. Like imagine you prepared a keynote presentation for a corporation, and none of it, like there was this look of fear on my face, like, oh my gosh, I had to throw the whole thing out the window and just off the cuff do it but you know what I learned? You know what I learned from that? You can't rely just because others are professionals. You have to be the one. It is your job as the speaker to be prepared, to have, to call for that tech rehearsal, to be the one to bring the extra. And for this too, in this virtual event arena, we have to prepare even more and know that we, different technologies that we're using, that we understand them, and so do the people that are running the show.
Absolutely. And this is why, I think a big part of what you just shared there is not preparing for the tech gremlins to show up.
The tech gremlins,
yes,
I love that.
I know. And that Shannon and I always use that, like tech gremlins. You don't know when they show up. In fact, our second episode talked about that. And we talk about like, you really don't know how or when they will show up. You just have to be prepared because when you have tech gremlins, that can rattle your confidence. What about you, Ihssane? Have you experienced something like that?
Gosh, where do I begin?
It's like, hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I know.
Wait, what? Yeah.
My biggest fail actually in kind of like public, for public speaking engagement, it wasn't actually virtual, and this is one that really stands out the most. It was actually, unfortunately, at a eulogy for a friend of mine who passed away. And what happened is that we were at the cemetery, and it's a and somebody asked, like, does anybody have to say anything? And people were talking, and I felt like the obligation of talking myself, and I've never done that before, right?
Yeah.
So I stood up and I actually took a line from somebody, actually my cousin, who said something about our great aunt. He said, well, our great aunt was not an athlete nor a gymnast, but she set the bar too high for being like a great mother, great aunt, and everything. So I thought that was a great way to kind of like talk about my friend who just passed away. And by all means, neither he or myself are athlete. And the second I said that, everybody was looking at me. And I literally froze for seconds. And I remember was saying like what has to be what has to come out next has to be either great or I just have to shut up and walk away. But then I realized, you know what? Let me say exactly what I feel. And I was just talking about him. I've always admired and envied him for being a parent and being there for his kids. And that brought everybody to tears. So I learned at that moment authenticity, you know,
Right.
if it's coming from the heart. I wasn't prepared by all means.
Yeah.
Nobody's prepared to say whatever, but I just like walked up and said something. That was my biggest fail. Is it a win afterwards? Maybe, but yeah, that I never want to feel that way ever again. So
I'm sure.
no,
I
no, absolutely not.
I think some of our audiences too can relate to that. And I think the most important thing, what I'm hearing from your story, is that you can always find a way,
Mhm.
especially, if in this world of virtual, you can find a way to kind of overcome what may initially look like a fail,
Yeah.
but maybe not, right? Something may come out of that. And that's a great opportunity. Like for me, I do a lot of live in real time, right?
Mhm.
And one of the big things I think people take away from going live, maybe there's a lesson to learn. And Anna just put that somewhere. I saw her post there. There she goes. She goes, learning opportunity.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's what I'm talking about. And Anna says raw panic. And she said, or as my sci-fi folks know, don't panic. I
Sounds
love
like Anna was there with me. It was like all those hashtags were
I
true.
know. And she says, nice authenticity when heart is felt. Anyways,
Yeah.
I just also want to quickly say a quick shout out to Deb, who's actually watching on the platform in Captivating Virtual Events. So, welcome, Deb. Good morning. If you are here, please say hello in the comments so we can give you a shout out, right?
Mm.
Whoop, whoop. Anyways, when we talk about all that, it just reminds me of one. It kind of reminds me of one of the things I saw on social media that I thought was a true fail. And the true fail was people forget, right? When they show up in maybe a meeting or a virtual event, in gaining confidence, can you imagine this? So you forget to switch off your camera because you
Mhm.
went to the bathroom, and then you come back as a speaker to speak. Try confidence with that. You go like, oh, that I think would totally rob you of your confidence speaking on at virtual events. Have you both seen or experienced that in person?
Yes,
Yeah.
I have. Oh my gosh, it's the absolute worst. And you're trying like so there's a panel
Heather's got a
situation.
story.
Oh my gosh, it's a panel situation, and you're trying like everyone knows, and you're trying to cover for the person, and they were coming on next, and you can hear everything, and so
Yes.
the AV person did cover it finally and realized to turn down that microphone. He had turned up the wrong microphone, and I was like, oh my god, terrible, just terrible.
I know I mean, we can go on and on. I think the biggest aspect of, speaking with confidence is we all just have to roll with the punches and just get better. Do enough times to
Right.
know that what works and what doesn't work. You just kind of have to tailor it to your style, and, that will help with the confidence. And just a quick, intro right here to those who are tuning in right now. If you're just catching this broadcast and go like, what are they talking about? Well, you're tuning in into Encaptivating Encaptivating Virtual Events, the weekly talk show series featuring conversations about creating and captivating virtual and hybrid events that lead to yes connections. And yes, with dollar signs, absolutely. So let me ask you this, Ihssane, because one of the reasons why I wanted to invite you to the show is that I know just from networking with you, you actually have is a member of the local chapter for Toastmasters, and I network with you a lot, and I've heard great tips and insight from you. But let me ask you this: what have applied in the world of virtual by showing up virtual, probably in the 18 months or 24 months, that something that you've taken from your experience, learning experience at Toastmasters, and applying it to a virtual event or a meeting?
Right. That is a great question, and I think for me, going through the Toastmaster process, I never believed that, especially for what I do professionally. I don't really think it could be. There's a relationship building virtually, so I had to embrace all the technology 2 years ago, and actually it started even before COVID, where I kind of like, well, I said, well, wait a second. If I want to expand my opportunities, I really have to kind of like embrace. I don't want to be flying everywhere, so I can embrace technology. And one of the things that I really applied is that I really don't see it any different from meeting somebody in person. Um, the reality is that there is that interaction between you and the individual. I think for me, for some meetings where the person cannot go live, like in a sense, cannot turn on the camera, those tend to be a little bit harder to connect with. And I always tell the person, hey, maybe this is a bad time. And then I realized people actually have also that fear of technology. So I had to kind of like overcome it by really asking more questions. And one of the things that I really apply right now virtually is that same process. I try not to do a lot of slideshows or presentations because it just takes away from that relationship virtually. Yes, there are certain points that you really have to emphasize and maybe bring a slideshow or or a graphic or something. But to me, kind of like that connection happens as we're
Yep.
talking.
Yep.
And I always go
Absolutely.
and it's been challenging at the beginning, to be honest with you. It has been challenging, but I tell myself, you know what, it's exactly the same thing. I really feel like I'm shaking the person's hand, and I sometimes just kind of like really virtually say, hey, I want to nice to
The
meet you, and
next
kind of
best
do it.
thing, right?
Right.
The next best thing to being with that person in the same room is really virtually. And do you feel that some of these things that you've learned to apply at virtual events or meetings have really helped you maybe with speaking with confidence
Oh,
a little bit
definitely.
more,
Oh,
especially?
definitely. For those who don't know Toastmasters, it I kind of like I'm laughing is because if you're okay with somebody giving you criticism soon after your presentation.
I was
um,
just waiting for you to say that because I know you talk about that a lot, and like how you've learned from that experience of
Correct.
feedback. And I
Correct.
love that. I'm glad
Correct.
you brought it up. Yeah.
If you ask a friend, what do you think of my presentation? They'd be like, "Oh, you were great." They were never going to be truly honest with you. And I think that's kind of like keeping, it's a friendship. It's a friendship. But when you have professionals, people that went through the process and they went through these pathways, now they're able to. It took me about a year to be able to actually judge a speaker. So it takes few pathways and few pathways to accomplish in order for you to become an actual a judge. So when you kind of like go on and do the icebreaker speech. And the icebreaker speech is usually about you. But who knows you better than you? It's you. Um,
Exactly.
and then when you have to have that open mind. I think I had an issue with it maybe once, and I was like, my gosh, really? And then I realized, wait a second. And I said, can I do it again? And they said, absolutely. So I looked at the notes because they gave you notes, and they
Yep.
say, okay, this is the things that you said, this is the things that you didn't say, blah blah blah, and maybe there's something that you need to improve on. And there was like a really constructive criticism, and you really have to have that open mind. And when I did my second presentation, I crushed it according to them, not me. So I listened to what they said, and I went back. It was the same exact speech, maybe in a different order.
I'm getting
And
goosies just listening to you share that. I really am.
yeah, no, really, and it's
Goosies.
true.
Yeah.
And I think you having that open mindedness, I think it's very important when you, and again, know your topic, know your subject. At least for me, knowing what not to do was a great starting point, because I
Yep.
know what I wanted to say, but
Yeah.
how to say it, that's the key.
Yep. I
And
love that.
right, yeah. So
Sorry, but I love that. I wanted to kind of say that because I hear what you're trying to say and share with our audiences is that you know your topic, right? Because once you're comfortable in that topic and you know you can show up authentically, which you spoke to a bit earlier also, is kind of in a way, in order to get that confidence to speak with confidence, you kind of have to prepare.
correct.
One of the things that I've this is kind of my style. I'm the kind of person that I will prepare to the T, right? Then I show up on camera. It just brings in a different conversation, like you probably are experiencing right now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We've had our bullet points, but I always feel that if I can learn how to like go with the flow in the moment, it'll
Hmm.
bring much more value in the conversation without trying to force some of those points that probably we prep for.
Right.
That said, before we go to Heather, because I have a question for Heather, but I just want to take a quick break for some of you who is just tuning in right now, but you are watching or tuning in into Captivating Virtual Events, the weekly talk show series, and I'm going to do a quick 30 seconds intermission, and we'll be right back.
Explore and discover with us why virtual events are becoming more essential to what you do and how you connect with the audience. How to choose the right type of virtual event for you. What kind of tools and resources are needed to produce your virtual event? How to pick the right virtual event service providers. How to monetize and profit from your virtual event. For more exclusive content, resources, and opportunities regarding virtual events, join our online community.
Boom. All right, I just want to come back with this question, and I think behind the scenes just now, we did talk about preparing, how the past 18 or 24 months have changed for some people showing up, speaking in the virtual space, right? And I've seen this a lot at of a lot of the virtual events because I do behind the scenes productions. I get to see more. So one of the big things I want to share is that the preparation part, because Ihssane just touched on the topic of like, hey, you got to know your topic, you got to know, how you're showing up authentically. So let me ask you this, Heather. So one of the things I think in the speaking industry and world right now, right, you can be a pro, but it could also be a challenge to show up virtually if, especially, you don't do it enough. And a
Mhm.
virtual meeting separates from the virtual event experience. Sometimes I feel that many speakers, I could be wrong, so I'm asking you because you are one of our experts today or guests to kind of share experience. One of the things I think, people who show up to speak at virtual events or virtual meetings need to understand the difference between how to deliver and speak with confidence at a meeting and also how to speak at a virtual event, because I think a virtual event requires a lot more engagement. Like, hey, Anna, thank you so much. Drop a comment if you like what we're saying. Say hello, right? And I can just put this up to what Anna just said. Shout out to Toastmasters. So there's a lot of different moving parts there. But
Mhm.
let me ask you, what's your win story in preparing to speak with confidence in a virtual space like this one? Because I know you also host a show.
Okay, so I do a lot of virtual work, and so it's all very different. Right now, I am in my atmosphere of we're having a conversation, right?
Right.
When I do a keynote for a virtual event, on the green screen. I've got at different cameras and lighting, and so it's a completely different look. So that preparation is different, and it literally could be like right over there. So the
Mhm.
studio is right here, but it's just a different setup. It's additional preparation. But for what you're talking about is preparing to engage. right? To engage the audience. And I think that is so incredibly important because you
Yes.
have to know it's not just and Ihssane has said some very, very important things that I think everyone should know. As a presenter, you have to know your content. You have to know the points that you're trying to make, the stories that support the points. You have to know all of that. But in addition to that, if you want to be the most confident speaker, it has to go beyond you and your message into why are you doing this? You are doing this for them. So doing
Yep.
the preparation ahead of time. Who is my audience? What do they really need? What is their level? What do we want to make sure is most important that they get, that they can walk away as a call to action? How can I engage them most? What are the tools that I have available to me right now? Do I have the
Yep.
option of doing chat? Can I take them to a whiteboard? Can I put them into a breakout room? Can I call people up and have them unmute themselves and actually, speak to me and do a laser coaching session live? I mean, there are so many things that you can
Yep.
do to prepare to create the most amazing overall takeaway for the audience. But it
Yes.
comes down to really understanding your audience and having the intention of being there for them, right?
Yep.
Well
I
said.
love that. Well said. And you know what? One of the things that I often, Shannon and I share about is creating that audience experience, right? Because at the end of the day, yes, you're showing up speaking confidently and you're like, okay, but what does this really translate for my audiences? And for me, that's such a big part of what I do because I want to leave people with this emotion that, like, I want to come back to whatever they do. I want to share that experience that they have. And I think a big part of it, this is just me, and I always tell this in my shows, do it enough time on camera, you throw up, you sneeze, whatever, you fail, deal with a tech gremlin. Then
Right.
you can show up and take whatever that Ihssane and Heather have shared, the fact that you have to be prepared, know your audience, get ready, prepare to engage, know what you can do creatively to create that experience. All that, do it enough time, right? And then you will be able to show up and speak with confidence. Am I right or am I wrong, folks?
No, yeah.
You are spot on.
Spot on.
Yeah. Asen, you have something to add?
Yeah, I do want to add something. I think a lot of us, which I've heard before, like record yourself, maybe play a
Yep.
video of yourself, and I'm like, oh, it's ridiculous. Honestly, if you have the confidence to talk to yourself in front of a mirror, you can bring that confidence in front of 5,000 people.
I agree.
And I
And just
think
like
that,
what you said,
yeah,
and I think that's where you learn from Toastmaster, right?
Yes,
Like
yes.
people giving you feedback. That's you
Correct.
giving yourself feedback. Just record.
Correct.
Initially, in the beginning, I too had a challenge of watching myself on video, but I realized, just like what you said, is part of that learning process,
Correct.
right? Just like sometimes I watch my video, I'm like, what the heck was I doing there? And I start laughing. And then, then I'm like, okay, take note, next time, don't do this because I lose my confidence when I say this, or
Right.
I do all this little idiosyncrasies, and I'm just like, why did I do that, right? And it's really a part of trial and error. Do it enough time
Right.
to get to a place where you're comfortable in your skin, and it becomes second skin, or second sin. Yeah, okay, second
It is, in
skin.
a way.
That
Yeah,
counts
in a
too.
way. Be authentic, right? And this is basically what I just want to do a quick shout out to Dr. Davia Shepard, who's actually tuning in right now. We did her fall summit last week, and it was really awesome. So any last advice before we leave, because we have a few more minutes? Something that the audiences can learn from you, a tip from you that could help them really show up and speak confidently, maybe at virtual or hybrid events. Because I know with the world that we're in right now, whether it's virtual or there's a hybrid component to it, there's going to be technology, right? There's going to be a lot of trial and error. What's your, last thoughts or advice for our audiences today, Ihssane, that probably you can share and let them know, hey, it's going to be okay. You can show up and speak confidently too.
One of the, you will not know unless you try.
Thank you.
and that is my tip for everybody. Everybody, including myself, and I'm sure Heather, and including you, Zeph, we all have that fear of public speaking. We do. We all do. Doing it 100 times does not diminish that fear. Doing it 1,000 times does not diminish it. I think it was Mark Twain that said there's two types of speakers. Those who are there's 50% who are afraid, and the 50% who are lying about not being afraid. The point is that we all have that fear,
Yep.
and the question is, how can you manage that fear? My
Love it.
my personal advice to you, and this is really coming from the heart, is unless you try it, you will not know.
Boom! Mic drop. So true. And Davia, thank you so much. She says, be authentic, and absolutely, because one of the big things I think people have a challenge is because they see people on video and they think they need to be like that
Sure.
other people. They forget who they are, right? And then they try to do what other people do. No. You just show up as you, all right?
Yeah.
You just kind of get better at you, and then you will be so good that you go like, woo, who's that person? Heather, what about you?
Okay, well, I would have to say, remember that the audience is rooting for you.
Mhm.
Because when something happens, and I'm not saying if, like literally, when something happens, we've been talking about the tech gremlins, we've been talking about like so many things could go wrong. If you know that the audience wants you to win, they're not trying to see you fail. You can come
Correct.
from that confidence. You can add humor to it. You can be authentic, and you can say, oh my gosh, you can't even believe, just be vulnerable, be
Right.
you, because they want that. That's how you make a connection versus thinking that you have to be perfect. And then if something goes wrong, your confidence plummets. Keep that confidence high and keep doing what you do regardless of the fear, in spite of that fear, in spite of any tech issues. Just keep moving forward with that purpose, and everything's going to be just fine.
Oh,
Boom,
that's
everybody.
very
This is what I'm
soothing, Heather.
I know, that's very soothing. Oh, and then Anna says here, breathe. And she
Breathe.
says, unless the earth swallows you whole, there is no disaster. Maybe the next guy worked for it. I love that.
Right,
And she
right.
said, be
May-
you. Everyone else is taken.
I just want to add one thing. Maybe technology makes our words a little bit more sensitive. It is
Mm.
true. Because I think that, having a microphone, I'd much rather speak in public without microphone. And I wish there was no, virtual meetings or whatever. But I think the microphone and the speakers really make our word kind of like people hear better. So you really have to figure out that flow of topic has to kind of like be very, very smooth. And I think that there are a few things that we say a lot, like ahs and ums and like and so, and those tend to be a little bit more annoying in virtual meetings and not so much in person. Those kind of like tend to be because our ears really catches those.
Yes.
The long pauses are not as awkward as they are in person when you're in a virtual
Exactly.
meeting. Not awkward, and I'm very comfortable with the long pauses. Just choices of words is very important, which is my biggest takeaway from like speaking in person and speaking at a show like this. The choices of word is very important.
That's just Ihsane's way of sharing his, Toastmaster experience, because this, Ihsane, I must say, I've seen the growth in your speaking, capabilities
Oh, thank you.
since before and after Toastmaster. So that's why I wanted to kind of like, bring you on, because I feel that among everybody else that I've networked with, right, you actually did a lot of investing in your speaking. So I thought, oh, he'll make a great guest to be on the show and share it with people, because that's authentic in itself, right? And
Zeph, I was
Heather-
born like this. What are you talking about? I didn't have to learn anything. I was never afraid. I was born talking. It's like, what is
See
everybody
the
doing here?
importance of humor? See the importance of humor?
That's what I'm talking about. And Heather, you mentioned something really good. And I know before we have a few minutes, but we're having so much fun. But I just want to say, you mentioned something very good. And I think our audiences just need to hear it. In this world that we're in, the virtual space, one of the big power to showing up and speak confidently on a, like a virtual event or a meeting is the vulnerability part. Because people think that you have to be perfect to show up on camera just because, you've seen YouTube and no, in the world that we live in right now, to build that connection sometimes takes a little bit of vulnerability, and that's okay. And I feel like when you speak in person, sometimes people don't want to show that, right? And I feel, no, that's the new power right there. But Heather, Dr. Davia Shepard said, Heather, you are wonderful. We'd love to have you on my show. Boom. Well, girl,
Boom.
Oh, there you go, Heather.
See, this is how we network, and
That's right.
Anna saying pants on file, pants All right, everybody. I just want to say thank you to both our guests today, Ihssane and also Heather, for joining us at the Encaptivating Virtual Events talk show series. And I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge, because this has been fun.
Thank you.
All right, make sure everybody connect with Ihssane and also Heather. If you're in the LinkedIn Live, you'll see their contact information. Connect with them, all right? Because you'll never know where that next information and tip is coming from. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for tuning in. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
It was a great.